Well, I'd like to welcome you to the next lesson. This lesson is going to be about how to deal with addictive thoughts that we run into during meditation. As we've spoken in the past about the purpose of meditation is to place us in a quiet, calm state where we need nothing physically, and then listen to the discontentment that still exists outside of our needs, in a sense. When we are completely in balance, we hear nothing. That silence comes from contentment, right? We're at a state of contentment. And this is the whole point of meditation, is to reach this full state of contentment so that we are no longer discontent for no reason. So one of the things we run into are what I call addictive thoughts. All addictive thoughts start out as a thought or a choice in a way. Think about it if you ever started smoking in the past, that at some point you must have thought, I'd like to try this smoking thing. I want to try it out. And we try it. And with some things we have control, which means that we always follow our thought process when we make the decision involving that item, right? Broccoli might be one of those, right? We don't get addicted to broccoli, right? We always make the choice to eat broccoli. We never seem to be pushed towards it or kind of focused on it in an unnatural way, right? Chocolate, on the other hand, chocolate can take us over, right? These kind of things have addictive qualities. And so when we run into these things, so this is a contact injury, I always say, that an addictive thinking is a contact injury that comes from making a choice at some point to try something. But the interesting thing about addictive products is that they produce their own energy, in a sense, right? They produce their own desire. So if you have some, it makes you want more. Does that make sense? This is how we know that this is an addictive quality. Because it seems to heighten its need, in a sense, right? It's needed more. It kind of climbs the ladder above common sense sometimes, right? In fact, it does. It climbs the ladder above common sense. We always have an inventory of the things that we are addicted to. We know how much we have at home. We never run out. We're always pretty darn sure of that, right? So what happens is that we come in contact with a chemical that kind of amplifies its own neediness, in a sense, right? And it does other things. It creates an imbalance in our loves, right? It increases its love for that item unnaturally, and we will love other items less, like its effects on our health, right? The effects on our finances and that type of thing. So the thought process becomes secondary to items that have an addictive quality to them. They have their own energy, right? They produce their own neediness, in a sense. But the interesting thing about addictive things is that it offers us two states, right? The state of need, and then the state of temporary satisfaction when we find that object and we ingest it or whatever we're addicted to. And we take it into our system. And so we have temporary satisfaction. And temporary satisfaction feels like contentment, but it's not. Because contentment is the end of need. This is just the fulfillment of that need temporarily, right? Like eating is a temporary fulfillment of our need or our hunger, in a sense. So these addictive products offer us neediness and satisfaction, but nowhere on the menu is contentment. Contentment is the end of that need, right? So we cannot end that need by having more, because it produces its own neediness. If we have more of that object, it makes us want more, even more of that object, right? So we run into a kind of a troubled area here for a while. I had trouble with it. How do I handle these things, right? I'm offering freedom in a sense, but at the same time, freedom wasn't working because it wasn't thought that was directing these decisions of mine. It was an unnatural neediness being produced by the item itself, right? And because I came to realize that this was a contact injury, I began to realize that the only way to end these addictive energies that enter into our minds during meditation, the need for sugar, the need for coffee, caffeine, smoking, all these types of things, is to end contact with them, right? Because they produce their own neediness, by ending the contact with those items, even though the initial reaction will be almost increased neediness, it'll be a temporary reaction. And it's a reaction that indicates how much of our energy is tied up in that habit as well. That will come back to us in the present once we have it solved. We begin to realize that only ending contact, physical contact with that product, will we begin to remove this consciousness from our stream of consciousness in the present day. So these are one of the knots that can be untied. They can be untied simply by ending physical contact. You have to kind of work it out on your own, what's bothering you. But I ended up quitting eating sugar. I don't have caffeine in my diet anymore. I don't smoke, obviously. But so these are things that I found that were entering and bothering me during the day, because they were a hunger that was never ending, right? So I ended that hunger, right? I ended the hunger which brought contentment. So anyways, that's one of the knots that can be untied through meditation. I hope this instruction had some help to you, and I look forward to the next lesson. Namaste.